Great. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And I think we might have some people joining us sort of as we go along. Thank you very much for taking some time in the middle of your day. And happy leap year, by the way.
Yeah.
Whatever happens on a leap year day stays on a leap year day, as they say. Thanks for joining CEP, Commercial Excellence Partners, represented by myself today for the webinar, and joined by the lovely Evonne, and she'll be sharing her experience from the biopharma industry, or from the pharma industry rather. She told me to call it pharma rather than biopharma.
It's fine.
This webinar will take about 35 minutes, I think, and then we'll have hopefully we'll have some Q&As from everybody who's attending. If at any point you feel like you have some questions, put them in the chat. We've got a couple of friends and colleagues who are helping us with this webinar, and they'll be keeping an eye out for your comments and questions and so on. So once again, thanks, and let's kick it off. A quick introduction to Evonne. She brings quite a lot of experience, more than 20 years to be precise, across the pharma industry, around sales, around L&D, around leadership, culture. And she focuses, and this is the reason why we have her as a partner in CEP, she focuses on turning strategies into results. Today, I'm very, very proud and I'm really delighted that she's on the webinar to share with us some of her experiences from the pharma industry that can be translated across into other industries in the realm of sales and marketing. Quick one on myself. I think most of you know me. I specialize in service design and customer experience, but I do also occasionally dabble in sales and marketing. That's been my experience for the last 20 years or so. And I really focus on customer journeys and helping companies become more customer-centric so that they can enhance loyalty and get repeat business. Together, the both of us hope to spend about 35 minutes with you today to share some of our insights on specifically on how to align sales and marketing. So just before we begin, a sort of a quick introduction to Commercial Excellence Partners. We are based across Singapore, Dubai, the UK, but really we work globally. We're actually a team of experts in all matters commercial, and these are the 7 domains that you can see that we work in. We have deep as well as wide expertise across industries such as banking, financial services, government, education, all the service and hospitality industries, and so on. Our core guiding principle is customer centricity, which is why it's right at the center, which is, in very simple terms, to put customer value at the core of all our efforts across these 7 domains. And we start with customers and we work backwards into strategy, innovation, marketing, sales, leadership, digital excellence, and so on. Commercial excellence, in a nutshell, is really an integrated business strategy that optimizes all aspects of these domains that we spoke about, right? And the ultimate objective is to deliver value that your customers are willing to pay for, thereby driving your business growth and profitability. We find that this has resonated pretty strongly with the market. Because we tend to look at a number of these domains individually and in silos, but it's really when you put them together that you get to optimize business outcomes. Since we started in November 2022, these are some of the clients that we've worked with. Specifically, we've worked with about 52. We've worked on 52 different programs. And projects across 8 countries and so far across 8 industries. This is through our three lines of business in training, advisory, and consulting. And in fact, we are particularly excited to bring our expertise, industry expertise, and practitioner expertise through executive education partners like Emeritus and Duke and Upgrad and some of the other universities that you see there. Moving on, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just quickly recap the first webinar in this series. It was Leading Commercial Excellence, and I know some of you on this call were there, but just a couple of quick points that we want to recap that lead us into today's webinar. So, you know, the main theme of that first webinar was that your go-to-market process is usually misaligned with your buyer's expectations of value. And this leads to revenue and commercial underperformance. So we showed that the root cause of a lot of this is that misalignment. And one of the biggest reasons for this misalignment is that your prospects or your buyer's expectation of value is no longer only coming from the products and services that you provide, but they actually want value from the very first time that they engage with you. In fact, they want value from the time they even go to your website. They expect to be educated. They expect to be, you know, to have the problems understood and to have some sort of guidance already. And this is why, if you look at this slide, you know, a lot of your buyers are, in fact, this is research from Gartner, buyers are spending 83% of their time not actually talking to you. So long before they come to you, they've already done research. They've been meeting with other people in their teams. You know, they've been trying to understand their problems and so on. And that's really because they expect to get this value even before they talk to you. And one of the other reasons why they're not talking to you is they actively want to avoid salespeople. You know, they don't want to engage with salespeople who are just badgering them with products and features and services, right? So, you know, what actually happens during a B2B purchase is, you know, what you're aware of is really towards the tail end of when somebody is getting in touch with you to ask you about your products and services. And by that time, chances are it's a little too late already, because they might have already researched your competitors and they may already be aware of what is it they would like and not like. So really, if we sort of summarize what buyers are expecting, you know, buyers' jobs to be done, you know, there's problems that need to be identified. There's these 6 key areas, right? So there's problems that need to be identified. There's requirements finalization. There's a solution exploration and supplier selection, and all of these things are happening internally, so inside their companies. And as they do each one of these 4 jobs, they also have to validate, right? We need to be, so validation really means that they want to be sure that this is the problem, these are the solutions, and they want to be sure that they are going the right direction. Simultaneously, they also need to create consensus inside their companies. It's not just one person who's deciding this is a problem and that is the solution. It's usually a team of people who have to get involved. And that consensus creation is a pretty big thing, because the idea is that we need to get everybody on board. And so, you know, when these are the jobs that have to be done by the buyers, if you understand this, then we ended off the webinar with this set of summary of how you can align with your buyers so that you understand them, right? And the first thing is you identify what are the problems that they have, who are the stakeholders, learn about their problems and challenges, find a way to help them, find ways, effective ways to engage with different buying groups at different points of the learning journey and the buying journey. And then truly try to understand, using data, you know, who are the buyers that are ready to buy from you, and what do they actually require from you to bring them over the line. So this was kind of a summary of the first webinar. And you know, we ran a poll where we asked people what sort of challenges would you be interested that we talk about next in our series. And one of the strong things that came out was this whole alignment between sales and marketing. So from a focus on the buyers, if we look back internally, a key point of failure for many organizations was really this lack of alignment between sales and marketing. And why is that important? So, we thought about it, and if you look at the past, if you look at, let's say, up to even 3-4 years ago, and maybe even today, some companies are very strictly aligned or demarcated between what marketing does and what sales does. There's a very clear line of definition that marketing is supposed to create leads, create awareness and create interest and consideration, after which, the BD team or the sales team takes over. I think we've come to a point now where, it's not so easy, and it's probably not useful to draw that clear demarcation, because you're talking about your buyers that need to be managed, and it's not just an internal process. And for that to happen, really sales and marketing need to work together, and that's a term that's called marketing now. So S marketing or sales marketing. And really sales kind of has their KPIs or their core function only towards the end of that, where the purchase decision is being made, and where they have to come in and actually convert the customer. But in most other cases, it's about being marketing led as opposed to being sales led, right? And today we're gonna give you some ideas on how that can be done. This is just a little cartoon we thought we would share, that I'm sure you see this happening across many of potentially your organizations and potentially organizations that you work with, where sales complains to that the leads given from marketing are just not qualified and useless, right? But this speaks to the importance of actually aligning sales and marketing. And there are 4 key areas of importance, right? So you need to have, to the market, you need to have a set of unified messaging. What you don't want to have is marketing saying something and sales doing something else, or sales promising something that the entire company is not even able to deliver. This comes down to your brand messaging as well. It ultimately impacts your brand. Another reason why you want to align sales and marketing is you want to have a consistent customer experience that is actually better than it was in the past. And when customers or potential buyers or prospects are speaking to different people in your company, when they're reading materials and consuming content, you want to be able to present them a consistent message, a sort of a personalized message for their journey with you. And ultimately, when you align sales and marketing, there'll be some stats that will be shared later. There is actually increased revenue, increased margins. And last but not least, you really want to be market driven and data driven. So you want to listen to the market, and both sales and marketing people in your organizations are actually the ones who are in touch with customers, or actually, at least they should be. And so with the kind of data that you get from the market, that's how you want to be making your business decisions and your strategy decisions. So, some of the key challenges, obviously, that most companies face when it comes to aligning sales and marketing, there is very frequently different goals and objectives. So the sales team will have a separate set of KPIs, and marketing teams will have a separate set of KPIs. In a study by Marketo, salespeople have said that really only 25% of the leads generated by marketing are considered legitimate. And so salespeople actually complain that the leads that they get are useless, right? In fact, a lot of them even say that the terminology that is being used to describe marketing is so different from the terminology that is used by sales. In fact, up to almost 90% of a difference in the terminology. And so, the idea behind defining and qualifying leads, that in itself becomes a challenge. Who is your ideal customer? What do they stand for? Is somebody even a qualified customer for us or not? The other key challenge in the alignment of sales and marketing is the lack of data integration. So the data that marketing gets and the data that the data sets that sales gets frequently don't get aligned, and they don't get understood in a way that helps the entire organization. And this is really caused by a lack of communication and collaboration, where up to 50% of respondents in a report actually said that they felt that their sales and marketing teams were actually not actively communicating with each other, feeding back and feeding forward, and not actively collaborating in go-to-market tactics, right? So this siloed mentality is something that really doesn't help you as an organization, particularly if you're a really large organization with hundreds of salespeople across multiple geographies. And then ultimately it comes down to leaders. Sometimes even leaders across geographies are not aligned, and therefore they're not equipped to break across silos or integrate silos, even silos like sales and marketing. So, given that these are the challenges, I'm very happy to hand over to Evonne. She's going to bring in her experience to tell us the best practices in how we can now align sales and marketing. Evonne, over to you.
Sorry, I was muted. Anyways, thank you, Vimal. So I'll now move on to talk about best practices and to-dos. And as Vimal has rightfully said, I'm from the pharma industry. So I will, at the end of this section, bring to life what I've shared and an example from the pharma industry. So the first thing I think we all need to know is that it takes intentional effort, and it has to be holistic, which means we need to focus on both the human and the systemic aspects within the organization. Human being people and culture, systemic aspects being processes and structure. So let's start with processes and structure. When we talk about processes and structure, we're looking at organizational structure and infrastructure. Do these actually help or hinder cross-functional collaboration? Organizational structure and infrastructure can create silos, or it can eliminate silos and enhance cross-functional interaction and collaboration. So for example, instead of being seated or grouped by functional roles, sales, marketing, you can structure people around business units that serve a specific customer segment or a specific product or service. So in that sense, you will naturally have the sales and the marketing within the same team. Secondly, we need to look also at internal processes and ways of working, right? Developing and refining processes to make cross-functional teamwork easier, to promote a more integrated approach and ensure that there's ongoing alignment and adaptability to market changes. Joint planning sessions, for example, regular cross-functional meetings, leveraging internal communication platforms are just some examples. And thirdly, even though we are talking about aligning sales and marketing, it's never just sales and marketing alone. It helps to work with and leverage other departments or functions like business intelligence, for example, to provide the insights that will help to align sales and marketing to make data-driven decisions. Getting L&D or the training department involved, for example, to educate the sales team on brand strategy, brand messaging, the sales strategy that they are using, etc. So the L&D and the training department is kind of like the conductor, right? And the bridge that ensures the whole sales orchestra sings to the same tune that has been composed by marketing. And when we talk about people and culture, first thing would be mindsets and behaviors. And it starts with the mindset, right? We talked about the siloed mentality earlier. A siloed way of thinking would lead to siloed systems, processes, and ways of working. So shifting mindsets and changing behaviors, it's not easy, and it involves nurturing a organizational culture where individuals keep in mind organizational goals and align the departmental and personal goals accordingly. It also involves getting everyone to think and act in ways that support cross-functional collaboration. So getting sales, for example, involved in a marketing brand planning session, getting marketing involved in the training of the sales force are just some examples. Secondly, developing, promoting, and rewarding the right behaviors. So development would include things like implementing training programs to develop the right skill sets that's required for cross-functional collaboration, establishing and measuring common goals, common KPIs, designing reward systems that will incentivize collaborative efforts and achievement of shared objectives. And this one often gets left out, third point, Cultivating psychological safety. Creating an environment where both teams can express ideas, share insights, challenges, and voice their opinions without fear of judgment or negative consequences. This is absolutely critical for collaboration, transparency, openness, and getting everyone aligned on strategies and tactics. And then last but not least, we have leadership. As mentioned earlier, without leaders working together at the top, silos and dysfunction would be inevitable. The role of leaders is crucial for effective cross-functional alignment and collaboration. However, leaders are often ill-equipped to lead across. Most leaders have experience and development in traditional vertical leadership, but not in getting things done with peers who have different priorities, different agendas, different motivations. The skill sets are not the same. Being customer-centric also means a lot of our work happens across different functions. So leaders need to be laterally agile in order to break silos and enable cross-functional collaboration between sales and marketing. So here are some best practices we have listed down for communicating and collaborating between sales and marketing teams. Cross-functional departmental meetings on a regular basis to ensure there's ongoing alignment and adaptability to market changes. Having a shared content, drive, calendar, as well as leveraging internal communication platforms, right? So it's easy to collaborate and ensures consistent messaging and timing. Having a feedback loop for both teams to be able to share insights and suggestions for improvements. This was also mentioned earlier, leveraging other departments, using the resources, skills, and knowledge of other teams to help in decision-making and planning. And then last but not least, as leaders, what can we do? So leaders need to ask, what do we need? What do our customers need from our work together, right? What leaders can do to develop lateral agility can be summed up in two main points. One, keep the organizational goals in mind. Don't lose sight of the big picture. Two, keep others in mind. Finding ways to win together, seeking and creating solutions that make all stakeholders feel like they are a part of the plan. Developing curiosity and empathy is also important. Being a student of your own organization. Talk to colleagues outside of your department. Understand what their goals, their challenges, their drivers, their motivations are. Understanding what it's like to be in their shoes helps to build trust. And trust is absolutely key. If there's no trust, there's no collaboration. So leaders need to also prioritize building relationships with key stakeholders that are of strategic importance to them. So on a larger scale, short of a major organizational restructure, what can we do? Or what can you do? Joint planning sessions, as well as regular cross-functional meetings, right? Joint planning sessions are cross-functional sessions that adopt a marketing-first approach, where everyone gets together to map the customer journey, develop a customer persona, develop brand messaging, set common KPIs, develop sales assets and content strategy together. The regular cross-functional meetings are kind of like the follow-up, tracking the common KPIs that has been set, analyzing data gathered, gathering sales feedback, co-creating post-sales strategies for retention and growth. And of course, all this has to be validated with customer inputs, which could be done through focus group discussions, surveys, or interviews. And as promised, here's an example from the pharmaceutical industry. This is what we would typically do for a new product launch. We get sales, marketing, medical, business intelligence, training, or L&D in the same room. Marketing identifies where to play, how to win. So it's important that sales understand that this process answers two questions for them. One, which customers do they need to see, where to play? Two, what resources should they deploy, how to win? So we would run a joint planning session involving all these functions. And there is product training, of course, because it's a new product launch. And then there are facilitated sessions on the market map. patient journey, segmentation, classification, and targeting, producing a customer portrait, competitor analysis, positioning, activation strategy, metrics, etc. Now, a lot is being covered. So typically, it's not something that can be done in an hour or even one day. This usually stretches on for 2 to 3 days. And the output is that, one, we leverage all the expertise we have. We co-create a marketing brand plan and sales strategy together. And this is also why we need leaders who talk to each other on a regular basis, agree to align, and are able to get their teams together in the same room. These joint planning sessions also help gain buy-in. And this is possibly one of the most important, gaining buy-in of all the critical internal stakeholders so that everyone is committed to the same goals, everyone is in the same boat, rowing in the same direction at the same pace. And I'll hand over next back to Vimal, who will share his case. Vimal?
Yep, thanks a lot, Evonne. Great case study. Thank you so much. So I thought that I'd share a second case study with all of you on how, well, not so much on how, but reflecting the strategies that Evonne gave you earlier in the previous few slides, just how those strategies were actually put in place and what they resulted in, right? So this was a fairly large organization where the problem they had was it was definitely a B2C business, more than a B2B, but they were also wanting to develop a B2B approach to the market. And so they decided to tackle each problem separately. And from the B2C business, there was a very sharp decline in renewals and new sales, resulting in a potential that the company would actually not just lose money in the short run, but also potentially shrink in size and not be able to get into the B2B space at all. So what they decided was that, look, let's fix our sales and marketing. Let's fix our go-to-market strategy and tactics. Let's turn the business around before we think of adopting a B2B line of business. The problem that was identified when they brought us in was that they had a very siloed mentality, and each team was, it was literally as we described, there was a marketing team, there was a sales team, and they were not talking to each other, and they were working to different KPIs, different priorities, different timelines, absolutely different everything, right? So in that situation, if you had leads that eventually did not convert, then as you did a deep dive to understand what is the root cause of, why did this customer not buy from us, or why did they not become a customer of us, you realize that it's very difficult to hold somebody accountable because, one team says that, no, but this was the ideal customer that we identified and we handed over to you. And the other team says, yeah, but, we were not able to follow up, or we followed up, but they were given wrong information to begin with, and so on. And so there was this blame game that was happening essentially between the BD, sales, and marketing teams, and the support teams, actually. And so long story short, once we did the diagnosis of the root cause problems, we came up with a few things. And obviously, right, the objective is you want to have shared accountability, because at the end of the day, we are all working for the business. We are all working to get customers into the business. We just do it in our different ways, right? So there has to be shared accountability. That sounds obvious, but sometimes the simplest things are the ones that are the most difficult to do, right? Even though you know it, you don't know how to actually enact it into practice. And so the way to do shared accountability was two really, really important things. Number one, you restructure the teams. So instead of having a sales team, a marketing team, a BD team, and so on, what you would have is a customer team, right? Aligned around different customer segments. And so you, for example, if you had 3 main customer segments, you would have 3 buying teams composed of cross-functional experts. So you'd have marketing people, BD people, sales people, customer success people, sometimes even IT people. And in this particular case, they actually had that. They didn't have an IT team, they didn't need it, but they did have customer success, they did have sales, they did have BD, and they did have marketing sit together and approach that segment of customers in a way that was aligned across the different specialized areas of marketing, sales, and so on, right? And so there were joint KPIs. So the team had a KPI of getting this many leads, defining, qualifying them, pushing them down a funnel, so to speak, towards either buying or not buying, renewing or not renewing, and so on and so forth, right? So it became a set of joint KPIs, if you will, and the metrics were also aligned around the structure of that team. And obviously, when you have a team like that, you have to have, as Evonne suggested earlier, even though you are a remote team, so even though this company was fully remote, you did have to actually plan regular meetings amongst the buying team, right? So you can call it cross-functional or whatever it was, but it was actually regular catch-ups. In fact, it became as regular as, I think, once a day. At the end of the day, they would catch up and they would just align around, look, this is what's happening, this is what I heard, and so on. And the results, after just 2 months of this realignment, shared accountability, joint KPIs and incentives, the results were, they realized the sales cycle came down drastically, because now you're not having prospects handed over. Now you're having prospects farmed, right? In a way, you're having prospects who are handheld from beginning to end by somebody in the team. And at every stage of the prospect's journey, they are able to reach out to the team or to somebody in the team who's able to guide them along as they progress down the path of making that decision to purchase or not to purchase. There was a 61% sales increase. The quality of leads that were coming in actually expanded tremendously, because now everybody is in the same page and they understood, look, this is the ideal buyer that we have. These are the personas. These are the segments. And so they were able to actually, which was actually the main reason why the sales cycle came down, right? Because when you get better people into your funnel, you convert much faster. And overall, internally, I think this was the best takeaway of all. Internally, employees and teams had a greater sense of control and empowerment in the business. So they felt like now they were responsible actually for the business. And we are all in it together, and it's not as if it's your fault, it's my fault. It's our fault, or it's our win, or it's our loss, right? Last but not least, on the customer side, definitely there was an improved experience of engaging with this brand, making decisions, and customers actually told us that we would much rather talk to you than talk to your competitors in the market, simply because with you we get answers, we get, you seem to know what we want even before we ask you, and it's very different from talking to your competitors. So I hope this case study helped you with understanding how you can actually align sales and marketing together towards your buyers and towards your buyers' needs. Next slide, Evonne. So in terms of conclusions from today's webinar, and really 3 key takeaways, right? There has to be a cohesive, not just a clear, aligned customer journey, but it has to be cohesive in the sense that you have to bring teams together to collaborate, right? And your collaborative pillars have to be around multiple ideas, such as metrics. So let's start with the customer segments, customer journeys. What are the objectives? What are the when I say objectives, the buyer objectives, the buyer needs. How do we collaborate around the kind of content that's going to be relevant to a buyer in this stage of the journey? How do we collaborate with each other internally? And how do we make sure that we're able to align around, pushing the buyer down towards a purchase? So those are the different collaborative pillars. And ultimately, you need to use data, right? And because you have a team that's collaborating, it's not sales data, marketing data, and so on. It's actually, impact data. We understand whether a customer is engaged. We understand whether the customer is convinced. We understand whether the customer is actually consuming more, asking more questions. It's now, the metrics are now, what we like to call impact metrics, where it's not about sales and upsells and so on and so forth. It's about are we making sense to buyers, and are we able to convert them at the end of the day, right? Is the buyer happy with the buying journey? Are they receiving value even before they actually buy from us? Because they may choose to buy from a competitor today, but if that doesn't work out, they remember the experience they've had with us along the journey, and they can come back to us tomorrow if it fails with somebody else. So really, really impactful metrics around the as a result of this alignment between sales and marketing. Thank you. I believe that's the last slide, and over to everybody for questions. I know we've got a couple of questions in the chat. Thank you very much for listening to us. Thanks, Evonne.
Start with a question from Christoph Dedine. So, if mindsets and behaviors are so important across departments for cross-functional collaboration, then how do we effectively align things when working with an outsourced provider for marketing and lead gen?
Evonne, do you want to take a stab, or should I go first?
Yeah, hang on. I'm pulling out the chat to read it because it was a bit I couldn't hear what Dora was saying. You can take it, Vimal, and then I'll add on.
Okay, cool.
I'm reading the question still.
Yeah, Christoph, great question. I'll start from the end and go to the beginning, which is I'm not a huge fan of lead gen providers, simply because a lot of them are misaligned. When I say misaligned, they're not aligned with my objectives. And what I mean by that is they want to be paid upfront based on a sheer number of leads that they deliver to me. I find that misaligned because I don't care about number of leads. I care about quality of qualified leads, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that becomes a part of my decision-making criteria, whether I work with a lead gen company or not, right? And I've tried with about 3 or 4 different ones, and at some point they're all almost the same. And so what that speaks to for me is that if we are internally in the business, if we are aligned, and I'm aware of what you're working on, Christoph. So if inside your business you're aligned with what you need in terms of prospects and buyers, then the cross-functional collaboration, including with third parties and with outsourced entities, has to happen. You have to take them on board, and they have to understand your mission. They have to understand what drives success for you, what drives value for your customers. They have to understand what qualified leads means, and they have to do all that. And sadly, I find in the market, not many lead gen companies are willing to invest that kind of time on you. They will just move on. That's my response, right?
Yeah, I would say get the outsourced provider involved in the whole process as well, so that they are aligned and they know exactly what you are looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like extended team then.
Yes, kind of. So just to give you an example, like if I am hired into a pharma company to design a training program for their sales team, for example, I am expected to sit through briefings or even product training, or read through their materials, where I understand their business strategy, their marketing plans, the whole shebang, before I deliver training. And I even if they don't ask for it, I request for it, because I want to know what exactly it's about, and I need to ensure my training is aligned. So I think for external vendors, they just have to do that as well.
Okay, fair enough.
Thanks, Christoph. Great question. Since Dora's sound is a little wonky, maybe I'll read out the question. So there's a question from Munaza. Hi, Munaza. Thanks for joining us. Teams have mostly been working from home, and this has resulted in isolation, lack of social contact, and this is a barrier to communication, because communication can, especially across cultures and languages, the clarity may not be understood by everybody, right? So although you're speaking English, it's just not understood as well. So because of the culturally diverse teams that we're working with, how can we suggest bridging this communication challenge? And I guess what she's asking is, how do you break the silos or work across the silos then? Evonne?
Sorry, I keep forgetting that I made this. My first thing to go to would be leadership. What are the leaders doing? Yeah, and I understand the whole work from home thing, but also understand that human beings are social creatures, right? And the interaction tends to be better when we're face to face. When I think of now versus pre-COVID, and we're working in the office, it was so easy for me to walk up to a colleague in the office, and in 2 minutes, I get the answer I need, versus sending an email, waiting for the reply. She doesn't see my email. It was just so easy to walk up to the desk. Hey, I just have a question for you. Can you answer it? And then you can go back to working or whatever it is. So I think there needs to be a component of hybrid work still, right? Just being physically in the same space actually does help, which is why I talked about infrastructure as well. But I understand if you're geographically in different locations, then it makes it harder. Then all the more regular kind of Zoom meetings like this, where you see the other person's face and you're not talking to a black screen, actually helps. It's the interaction that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, my experience in this with I wouldn't say with clients, but definitely having myself worked in organizations that are completely remote. And when I say remote, I mean remote. Like you've got Europe, India, Africa, Asia, and Asia, 3 countries in Asia. So what I found failed was exactly what you said, Manaza, which is, although we're all speaking English, we all understand different things from the same sentence, right? And although we have a mission that's on paper and that's clarified in KPIs, we still somehow manage to misunderstand those KPIs, right? So I'm going to say something that is not, that may sound fluffy to some people, and I know some people don't like listening to these things, but there is, in my opinion, there is absolutely no substitute for emotional connection. The best companies who are remote, what I know is that they consciously organize get-togethers, like physical get-togethers, to bring people together, spend 3 days, minimum 3 or 4 days together, because in those moments where you're together and you're not working and you're just getting to know each other, you develop an emotional connection with each other. And you just get to know so much about the person that you cannot on a Zoom. It's not Zoom's fault. It's just that, when we're talking like this on a laptop, there's a technical term for it, but if I'm talking right now, none of you on this call can actually butt in and talk. One voice, one sound, one set of sound waves can go out at one time. So that asynchronous communication can't happen. Synchronous communication cannot happen. It is very asynchronous, right? And you overcome this problem, which has got nothing to do with culture. It's just got to do with feelings. You overcome this problem when you're together physically, because when you're in person with each other, you can interrupt each other, you can laugh, you can see facial expressions, body language, all the non-verbal communication that you can't see on a call. And that builds so much trust and emotional connection. And for me, that is the answer, unfortunately, right? I don't think we can do this so effectively over Zoom, or over any digital platform.
I think it's like you're putting up another barrier if you limit it to just a virtual platform. It's just another barrier you have to overcome.
Like in Canada, like even if we are sharing the same office, we don't even do the effort of going into each other's room at all, because we're just using Teams to connect.
Yeah. So, oh my God.
I think like in Canada, I have lived under the most restricted, I think, of COVID, regime. So I mean, it has become like a natural thing to not to just stay socially distant from each other. I don't know why. That's the norm.
COVID. Blame it on COVID. COVID has made it easier. Yeah.
No,
so
actually, you know what? A lot of young people do this. A lot of young people prefer to text.
Yeah.
And prefer the email rather than talk.
I think maybe we're starting to see generational differences. I like to walk into my colleague's office, and if he's available, like, can you talk?
Yeah, same here, because he's mentioning the emotional connect.
Yeah. And also you just somehow you will tend to just it's not just business, right? You talk about work, but you socialize a little as well. And the relationship building and the trust all comes around, falls into that as well. And which is what I mentioned earlier, having curiosity and developing empathy, right? By understanding what your colleagues or your peers are doing at work, what are their priorities, their goals, and see how you can align. If you have the budget, write down. I used to like make an effort because I handle 14 countries in APAC, and I would first thing I do is I fly down to all the countries and I meet everyone in person and I talk to them in person. The first thing I do is to set up that relationship. Yeah.
Okay, in the interest of time, I'm gonna quickly answer Yen's move on and answer Yen's question. It's a very good one, right? Because we do have startups, and essentially, if you're starting up an organization, how would you set it up so that it can work in the future, compared to fixing an organization, which is what this webinar was about. It's a brilliant question, Jens, and the short answer to that is, start with your customers, and that's the first thing. Start with your customers and work backwards. So understand which are the segments that you're going to need to communicate to, because as a startup, you're going to need to build awareness of your brand. So the level of communication and advertising and awareness that needs to be put out there is very different from an existing organization. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing, and obviously, because you are not known, you have to build trust, and you have to struggle to build that trust, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is this is where the leadership really plays a huge role, because if the leader is going to be and typically we see two kinds of startups, right? So you've got startups that are very tech oriented, where the leader is a tech person and focuses on building the product and building the tech, but they are not very good at bringing people together. They're not very good at defining strategy and so on and so forth. Or you have the other non-tech founders who are very good at doing all of that, but absolutely crap at building products, right? I think at the end of the day, the leader has to play a very strong role in aligning the organization together around customer needs. And the leader has to be, one thing that I like is a leader has to be involved in sales. I think in the beginning, in the initial periods, and I don't know what that is, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, but the leaders of the organization have to be on customer calls, tech calls, product calls, customer success calls. That's what helps to build market knowledge, and you end up becoming market driven in that way. I hope that answers you. Rana, so can induction training play a major role in aligning with customers? Rana, can I ask you, are you referring to induction of customers, or are you referring to induction of sales teams?
Sales and marketing. I'm referring to induction of sales personals regarding playing a role in when going to customers, and because what application the induction training, what role the induction training can play in the sales people, how it can develop the sales and marketing people to when they face the customers. I am from engineering sales. I've seen a lot of these things like because training forms a very important part of this. So how can this induction training play a role in aligning with customers? Because it's facing customers and facing in a unified way, means with the sales and marketing come with the same position in front of the customers is very important to build the revenue for the organization. Because once there is a incoherency between sales and marketing, then the customer gets a confused outlook from that comes from the organization, actually impact on the organization. So that's my question, is that can the induction training play a major role in aligning with customers? Induction training means when you are when a fresher, and just at the stage when he's entering the organization, at that time the training, so that how he can build up to which can help the organization as well as help personal individual development, team development, with specific to customer.
Yeah, Evonne's got some good examples of this. Evonne?
Short answer, absolutely yes, critical. Your sales training is absolutely critical. So work closely. So the sales trainer, if you have sales training, is not just about, I understand it's technical, right? Engineering. So the training is more technical. Yes, you need to know about product, but it's not just about the product. There are the soft skills involved as well. And so how you interact with the customers, how do you generate insights? How do you handle objections? How do you handle concerns? All this comes into play. And then there's also the training on the marketing aspects of it. The salespeople need to be trained on it. I mentioned earlier as well that sales needs to get involved. Sales needs to train. Marketing can get involved in the sales training. So if you have your sales trainer working very, very closely with your marketing person, to understand what exactly, understand the brand strategy, understand brand messaging, understand how to handle objections. Everything's developed together with marketing, and then it goes to sales. It's not sales trainer just developing their own training materials and then training the salespersons. No, the sales trainer, the training department works together very closely with the marketing department, develop the materials, and then it goes to the sales training program. Marketing person can even sit in the sales training program in certain segments.
And in fact, AJ mentioned that in the chat. He says, shadowing, right? And that's what shadowing is, when you listen to each other, because at the end of the day, when a marketing person understands what a prospect is asking the salesperson, now they're directly they're listening to the market saying, okay, can your product do this, or can we do that? That becomes content for marketing after that, saying that, okay, if there's customers asking for this and I'm not talking about it in my marketing collateral, then I should be talking about it, right?
And this whole job shadowing thing, yes, absolutely as well. So this happens within the pharma industry. The salesperson often does joint calls. Marketing goes with sales to visit healthcare professionals. Sales don't just go around looking for, visiting their customers alone. Very often they have joint visits, or we call them joint visits or co-visits together. BD sometimes comes along. Trainer, I was in Salesforce effectiveness or sales excellence training, but I went out with my sales team across all the countries with them on the ground to see customers. So nobody works in silos. Nobody is sitting in their office preparing stuff without having seen a customer. So across the board, everyone's expected to go out. So this is where your KPIs can come in. A common KPI could be 50% of your visits are joint visits, or 30% of your visits up to the company, up to you to set it, right? So you have to make this many visits to your customers. So for the sales force, 50% of your visits, you have to be joint visits. For the marketing people, you have to spend X amount of time out in the field with your sales force. These would be common KPIs that they need to attain as well. And these are the kind of KPIs that would get people to think collaboratively and work collaboratively, cross-functionally.
Great. Unfortunately, we are going to be out of time. Munaza, I've got your question. Why don't I reply to you separately, Munaza? I'll connect. I mean, we're connected anyway. And
yeah, sure, that's fine.
I'll send you my thoughts on that. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do follow us on LinkedIn and connect with us here. The QR codes are there. Connect with Evonne, connect with me. And if we can be of assistance in any way, if we can help you with anything that you're challenged by at the moment, we are happy to try. And we'd love to continue the conversation with you. Thanks, Evonne. Loved having you on. And thanks, everyone, for supporting us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
You guys,
thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Vic.
Bye.
Bye.